All right, I wanted to just do a video where I talked about some recommendations for music that you could listen to. And I'm just going to do it like out of my physical media collection because I think that's like more interesting. I'm not going to like edit anything. Some of the stuff is older because I'm old, and I think that's probably a good thing because that makes it like a little bit easier to learn from. Some modern stuff like just getting more technical, not necessarily always, but in a lot of cases, and this older stuff can be a little bit easier to pick up sometimes. So number one, we got Norma, Oh God, the Aftermath. This record absolutely rules. There's so many cool riffs on it. They use that drop standard tuning that I've talked about previously, where you have your highest string tuned just a half step away from your next highest string, so you can grab easy panic chords, and it's just like full of like fun power chord riffs and panic chords with like crazy time signatures and stuff. Classic. We got Blood Brothers, Burn Piano Island Burn. They just announced they're going on tour. Unfortunately, they sold out of tickets in my area already, but it's whatever. They're a pretty great band. Burn Piano Island Burn is maybe one of their less accessible records, but it's very daring, I think, and it might encourage you to try playing guitar in ways that you've never seen or heard before, because the guitar playing is very, very unique. Tricky record to learn. Very hard record to learn. If you want to learn an easier Blood Brothers record, start with Crimes. Number 3 is like a personal favorite, Furnace Doublewalker. This band is from New Hampshire. They're very unknown. You can definitely get the CD for like $10 on Discogs or something, and just amazing, like super mathy, super heavy sounding. Yeah, they describe themselves, I think, as like a stoner math or like sludge math band. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of post-hardcore and metal influence in their sound as well. Next up, we got One Wing by the Chariot. Classic record. This came out in maybe 2012. It's just very adventurous metalcore. I think when you think of metalcore in that era, you think of a very different sound from One Wing. Next up, I want to recommend Funeral Diner. Funeral Diner. This is the Wicked EP. They're a really cool band to check out. If you have never listened to them before, they've got kind of like a more melodic, almost, I would say, neo-crust influence sound, black metal influence sound from the earlier 2000s. And then lastly, I only have one cassette tape, but shout out to the band Silk. I got this on tour when we played with them in New York, and they're really good. They're really nice kids. I'm going to go really back in time for a second, and I got this Still Life split. Still Life is a really old emotive hardcore band from the early 90s. They're very famous for being kind of one of the bands that kind of broke the hardcore scene from the Screamo scene, because you had a lot of hardcore heads being like, this isn't hardcore. It's like a pretty good record, a pretty good band. It's like easy stuff to learn, right? Like a lot of the earlier emo Screamo music is more simplistic and it's easier to pick up. It's a great place to start. I also want to shout out, for the same reason, Native Nods Bread. This is like a great EP. There's like some cool riffs to learn on it that are not terribly complicated. For an early Screamo record, I think it sounds pretty good. Maybe, if you're younger, you might not really be into the vibes as much, but, this is what people were doing in the 90s in New Jersey. I'm going to recommend Loma, Prieta, and Raein as well. Fantastic bands. I have the split from them. Loma Prieta's 4 is like one of my favorite records too, if you've never listened to that. Great stuff. Also, the Saddest Landscape, kind of from the same era of like late aughts, early 2010s, Screamo. Pretty fun band. All right, we're moving on up to the big boys, the 12 inches. I wanted to talk about Crain for a second. R.I.P. Steve Albini. He engineered this record. Crain was from Kentucky. They were a really cool post-hardcore band from kind of like the late 80s, early 90s, on that cusp moment. Friends with Slint, and just like a really fun group. This is a great record. You should check it out. Next up, I got to shout out the band Capsule. I got this record fairly recently. It was a gift, actually. And yeah, huge Capsule fan. I think I talked about Furnace already. They did a split together, and that's a great record. I don't think I have it. Otherwise, I probably would have dug it out. Like very mathy, sort of more on the melodic side of things, but it's extremely chaotic. One of my personal favorites, we got Refused, The Shape of Punk to Come up next. This is like a fantastic record. It's just like so inventive. They were kind of Following in the footsteps of a band called Nation of Ulysses, which is also worth checking out, which is a Discord band from the late 80s that was developing this, I don't even know how to describe it, almost like mod SAS-influenced metalcore sound, post-hardcore metalcore sound, and Refuse just meld so many things together. This record is fantastic. Their earlier stuff prior to this record is pretty good too. Next up we got SeeYouSpaceCowboy, The Romance of Affliction. These people were in a band called Flowers Take the Pens, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago too, which is a basement scrams band that might be worth checking out if you're into that sort of thing. This is a fantastic metalcore record. This is a fantastic metalcore band. All of the records are fantastic. If you have the money, you should go to Middleman Records and download their first record from them and pay for it, because I think they're trying to raise some money right now. This is a very early metalcore record. We got Groundwork's Today Will We Not Be Invisible Nor Silent, and it's one of my favorite early metalcore records. I kind of bought this on a whim, and they reissued it recently, and I think it's sold out. But this is their only record, and I think they were from Arizona. And yeah, it's like, in terms of like learnability, it's pretty learnable, but the riffs sound good. I think this record came out maybe like, I don't even know, early 19 something, and it is just fantastic. You would not think it came out so early. Last but not least, I have to recommend this Calculator record. These Roots Go Deep. This was a heavy hitter for me when I was like, maybe, I don't even remember, 19 or 20. It's got that real lo-fi production and some fun, recognizable samples from the film Forrest Gump. Yeah, so those are like recommendations from my physical media collection. I have other post-hardcore Screamo records too, but I kind of tried to narrow it down to stuff that felt maybe the best. Tried to spread it out over like a good time period, and yeah, I don't know. Hope you enjoy it.